All right. I love the last panel. That was all about sustainable food. Now we'll talk about sustainable energy. And we have some really, I think, experts in the field on the stage today, and it's a real pleasure to be up here moderating. Quickly on my background, I run a sustainable investment fund, and we have roughly $500 million invested in entrepreneurs that are trying to make the world a better place. And the energy vertical is a very, very important space for us. And there are lots of fantastic entrepreneurs building businesses there that will hopefully both be commercially successful and have a major impact. And I think for those that were here for the earlier panels, I think it was 2 panels ago, there was a gentleman up here who said this could be one of the most exciting spaces to be in, sustainable investing, as we try to create a new future. With that, maybe we should allow the other panelists to introduce themselves. And Henri, you're to my left, so why don't you go first?
Hello, everyone. My name is Henri Ormus. I'm a nuclear engineer by education. Last 14 years, I've been working and living and studying in Sweden, US, Finland, Russia. So fully nuclear. And I've been here now back to Estonia 6 months. And we want to build the Estonian sustainable future with Fermi Energia. We want to implement small modular reactors in Estonia because we are convinced that without nuclear, carbon neutrality in Estonia is impossible. Yeah.
Good. Inese?
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Inese Dosē. I am a head of analytics at Eesti Energia, and I am a management board member at subsidiary in Latvia, SIA Enefit. And lately I have been working with the sustainability projects, which is one of the reasons why I'm here.
Great. And then Rasmus.
I'm Rasmus. I'm a deep tech, clean tech guy, innovation lead in Sunly. So Sunly is a renewable energy startup. We do solar, wind, and storage. On top of that, we also invest 10% of all capital we raise into electrification startups. So I do that. So I'm here to say that what's possible now in renewables, what's possible in the near future, and what's possible with the startups that we actually invest in.
All right, so let's start with the title of the panel. What does a sustainable future, energy future, mean to you folks? So I have a feeling based on the fact that you mentioned nuclear in the introduction, that's going to be part of it, but fire away.
Okay, well, obviously sustainable energy future, we need to have a lot of clean energy. We need to get rid of all the fossil fuels. This means huge decarbonization, a lot of electrification. And we have not many options. We have wind, solar, hydro in Estonia we don't have, and then nuclear. These are pretty much the options. Maybe a little bit of bioenergy, but of course we don't want to burn the wood in our oven, you know. We would like to use it more wisely, maybe in construction or to add more value for it. So that's from my point.
Yeah, to me, it is diversified production from various sources, and I would say that actually I would be a very strong supporter because we will either need some fossil fuel or we would need some other fuels so that we can go away from the polluting generation. So I'm here representing Eesti Energia. They are actually investing a lot on decentralized production and also helping the clients. So from their side, they are actually investing a lot in production from wind and solar and helping the clients to do the same.
Yeah, so for me, the future of sustainable energy is wind plus solar plus storage. And then, because those things, at least the first two, definitely exist, storage is getting there with the commercial terms, and then bringing it down to the consumer level, where it can be on a decentralized level where everyone can play a role. So it doesn't have to be these massive companies that are building, centralized energy systems, but it can be on a granular community-based level as well. In a sense, giving back the keys to the community, because energy is such a key underlying part of what we do on a daily basis.
Now, when I walked over to the conference today, I almost was blown over by the wind, okay? And so it was obvious to me there's a lot of wind power here. But you guys put out all sorts of different types, nuclear, solar, wind. Are we going to have it all? Or are the Baltics going to go in one direction over another direction?
Well, if I may, I've been studying electrical engineering, sustainable engineering, sustainable technologies. And the more I've studied, I've understood that without nuclear in the mix, it's impossible to really go. And with just solar and wind, they are good, and we need to implement a lot. And I'm a big supporter on that. But the volatility that it brings to the grid and the problems that may arise when during long and cold winter days, there's no wind, there's no solar, we need backup power. And what is this backup power? We cannot use gas for many reasons, you obviously know, and gas has a lot of CO2 in it. So we need to have this good balance mixed. That's the only way to go. Yeah.
I mean, I disagree on nuclear. So I don't have a PhD background, but I do have a background in carbon finance. And when I look at nuclear, then nuclear could be an option if it was anywhere near ready on the level that we're talking about now. Because I believe that for 340 days, you can cover everything in solar, wind, and the storage we have. You will have 2 weeks where you will need long-term storage. But for that, you can look at amazing startups that are coming from like Germany or Norway or Estonia that are like doing, for example, liquid air storage. I mean, that's as close as modular nuclear or cost-effective nuclear is, maybe even closer. So, and if you can cover that 2 weeks, we're only talking about 2 weeks now, then you can easily do solar, wind, and storage the way it is now.
Maybe
We're going to get the nuclear rebuttal here, by the way.
Yeah. Maybe I'll respond that the small modular reactors does not exist. And the technologies, for example, what we in Fermi Energia, we look at the BVRX 300 developed by General Electric Hitachi is going to be built first in Canada and will be ready 28. But the technology is proven technology. 90% what is used in that plant is already used in the plants in Finland, in Sweden. All this know-how is available. And we as Fermi Energia, we work with our best European partners. Vattenfall is our shareholders, owner of Swedish nuclear power plants. We work with Fortum. They have a lot of capabilities. We work with Tractable NG, who owns the Belgium nuclear power plants. So the technology is there, and I would say that actually the battery technology is much more far, because to implement actually like long-term battery storage, it's immense cost, and this will increase the actual price of electricity because you need to pay for the investment. So.
Any comeback?
I mean, I don't actually want to get to that level, but paying for investment, battery storage is cheaper than nuclear.
So sometimes it's like watching a tennis game and watch the ball go back and forth.
This is why you put me here, right?
Yeah.
maybe
You're the net. Sorry, I had to. Tennis game.
Maybe just to add, and we are here for investors and startups. So it's in the end, it is always the investor who looks the business case. And we believe that we have very strong business case. We plan to have the electricity cost 55 euros per megawatt. What are the prices now? 100, 200. And the power plants, old nuclear power plants in Sweden and Finland, they produce electricity with 20, 30 euros per megawatt. Today, I think the price was in some hours 600 euros per megawatt. So it is kind of assured that the nuclear in the long term, it is actually very, very cheap option. And
All right, I'm going to switch the topic.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's going to keep going. But I do have a question around capital availability, because obviously stock markets have kind of fallen. There is some concern about the availability of venture money, et cetera. For a lot of your aspirations, you need money. Are you worried it's not going to be there?
No. And that's the easy answer. So we have insane inflation. Historically speaking, energy has been a great inflation hedge. Second, obviously, Sunday itself is doing wind and solar, which is proven, and the marginal cost of solar wind is essentially zero, right? Once you get it up, and the actual startups that are coming now. What they're doing is fundamental shifts in the technology that is available, right? But they're in a really early stage. So when we look at the capital crunch is mostly affecting Series B and beyond. It's not that much in the pre-seed, seed, and Series A. So therefore, they will have government grants and 3 to 4 years, so altogether, let's say 6, before this will be affecting. And I really hope the capital crunch doesn't last for 6 years, because then we have majority of other problems that will arise from that. But I don't see an issue in the grand scheme of things. If that's the decision taken, that we actually back up our words that sustainable energy is the way forward.
Inese, what do you think?
I'd say that I don't see this coming, simply because investors really love this from the perspective that it is sustainable investment. And the institutional investors are getting more and more comfortable to invest even into EPC. So this is why this is not something that I would see coming.
You're going to need some money, Henri.
We will need a lot of money, but not so much. One reactor, 1 billion. 2 reactors, 2 billion. We want to build 4. The money is available. That's not the problem. But the problem is that we need actually electricity. And we've been analyzing the market, and we don't see investments coming into electricity market. And that's why the prices have actually ramped. The old power plants are been shut down, and nothing new is coming. So actually there's a lot of room in the market for all the clean energies, and there is money waiting, good business cases. And we are going to prove that we will have a solid business case.
Are any of you folks worried that we might backslide? The war in the Ukraine is terrible, and it's made a lot of governments rethink their energy strategies. Some may go for the quick drug, the quick fix, and go back to some fossil fuels, as opposed to invest in your future. Anybody worried about that?
I'm not. Well, I'm representing nuclear here, so I'll talk about nuclear. Actually, nuclear energy is one of the very good way to secure the security of supply and the energy independence, because the uranium, the fuel, what you need actually very small amounts, can be produced by Canada, by Australia, by some African countries, by Kazakhstan. There's a lot of diversity of supply for the fuel, so that is not a problem. Yeah.
Okay, I go next. Sorry, I'm not. I'm a little bit worried because both of these are political, naturally, and maybe now we see clients going and thinking more about securing their supplies of the energy. From that perspective, maybe there is a little bit of throwback, but overall, if you look at that, and if you look actually into what are the plans of how to go away from gas, then there is quite a big percentage to go into renewables. So I think maybe this plays a little bit on your favor, right? But overall, I wouldn't say this is too much of a throwback, more maybe accelerator from my point of view.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I hate to say this, but a good crisis is also a good opportunity for up and comings. I mean, we had COVID and digitalization, jumped 10 years in like a year and a half. Now, when you're now looking at, we don't have energy, we need to secure our supply. Obviously, yes, you will have a decision like, are we going to go back to the old reliable that apparently is 600 megawatts an hour today? Great news, I didn't actually know that. Or we're going to try something different. You can't fix old existing problems that we created a decade ago with old solutions. So I think it actually gives you a catalyst to change things, and quite rapidly. That's what a crisis usually does.
Yeah, fully agree. Like this is now a big opportunity for Europe, to kind of untie the relationship and the dependence on the Russian gas and other fossil fuels that are imported. So, and now we cannot import that, so we need to push heavy all the clean energies. So there will be stronger drive, and this is only positive. So yeah.
Okay, I still get to have some fun up here though, because you're doing this on the backs of the consumer, right? And so the average consumer thinks when they hear spending on nuclear, spending on solar, wind, et cetera, that their energy bill is going to go up, not down. And they're paying a lot of money right now. Inflation is rising, right, for their energy needs. So how are you going to convince the consumer, this group out here, that it's time?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It is true that energy prices do end up on the consumer's plate, right? Well, I mean, the first argument is that the solar, like I said, once built, zero marginal cost, right? Nothing at all. No other technology can say that. Wind is very similar to that. Yes, you need to finance it right away. But when you look at solar, when you look at utility scale solar, you look at what Sunday does, it's actually really cheap to build. I mean, in 4 years, we are now at what, over 200 megawatts, like building it, right? Before it took way longer. So it shows that there is a way to roll it out really quickly, and that's the reason why we do solar, not wind, because of the cost question. So yeah, but in the long run, or not even in the long run, in the near term, 2-3 years, these kind of decisions will lower the energy price. Because the price that we have today is not because of what we did last year. It's what we did a decade ago, and we didn't take the decisions then. So yeah, but it is a difficult question.
It is, but I think you are coming with good news, right?
Yes. Well, our goal is to produce electricity at 55 euros per megawatt hour, and we want to have long-term power purchase agreements with the Estonian large consumers, but also why not with the small consumers. So this is a very good offering compared to what you see. And I'm a little bit opposing, I'm just warning that to people that too much wind and solar in the system will actually increase the system cost, because you need to invest a lot to the grid. One thing, you need to have investments into backup power, which also cost, in the end, actually, the consumer will anyway pay all these investments in one way or another. They're often hidden. But when we do investments and we do long-term agreements, then that's the cost. So at least 50% of power produced we want to sell with long-term agreements, maybe the rest to the market. Yeah. So we see that nuclear will bring the cost actually down. So it's a good balancer in the system.
Yeah, I have got a very similar opinion. I think in long term, actually, it is good news. So it might be the case that there will be a bit of turbulence in the meantime, especially now with all the external factors. But in the long term, and this is how I suggest to look into that, good things are coming.
I'm watching questions above your head that you don't see, and I'm going to ask a few of them now. And if anybody else in the room wants to raise their hand, feel free. But there's a lot of questions about hydrogen. What should the Baltics be doing regarding a hydrogen policy?
Hydrogen policy, can't comment on that, but hydrogen itself is very interesting. So I have a lot of startups that are working with that in this region, exactly for the question of how do you do the 2 weeks. So obviously fuel cell technology is a little bit more advanced than long-term storage, but it can get there. And also in Sunday, we're looking into hydrogen as a storage for wind itself. So it's definitely not off the table, because it could be feasible in the next decade. We would hope that it's quicker, but probably not quicker. But yeah, it's definitely on the table.
Okay. I think it's too early stages, so this is why I don't believe in it yet, but I do believe there is a potential there.
In hydrogen, there is big potential, but I see it more in the industry side, because there's a lot of hydrogen used, for example, steel industry. Now it's based on natural gas. So this need to switch to hydrogen. Then also in the oil industry, many industries actually, the fertilizer industry needs hydrogen. But if we talk about energy sector, I have a little bit bad news, but I don't believe in it, because if we produce the hydrogen from the electricity, we store it, we liquefy it, and then we get back, turn it back to electricity. The percent what we get out is maybe 30% efficiency. So it's basically like, I come to you with 4 ice creams. Hey, can you please hold me? I'll come back later. I'll come back to you. Can I get my ice cream back now? You give me only 1. Where's the others? Gone. So that's the reality. And to have these hydrogen systems, it's huge investments that need to be done. And these investments will be paid by the consumers. Maybe not directly, you don't see it in electricity bill. Somehow, we probably need to have very heavy subsidies if we want to start building actually the hydrogen infrastructure and the economy. So hydrogen will be part of the future, but let's see, there's a very long way to go. The hype is now much bigger than the reality coming in, let's say, next decade.
Yeah, just as a follow-up on that, like, sure, capex is very high, and the hype is immense. Like, it's like Web3 level. But the point is that, just your analogy, the 4 ice creams that come, if they're produced by renewable energy, they're all free. So even if you get the 1 ice cream back, it's a free ice cream. In that sense, so it works out in the way you actually produce it. So just as a fun analogy there.
But it's not.
By the way, if you gave me 4 ice creams, I'd eat them all. You wouldn't get anything. Just for the record.
Yeah, of course, immediately.
But there is no such thing as free energy, and you have the investment cost. So actually, the energy has a cost. So
yes,
somebody will pay it in some way or another.
Questions, anyone? Fire away.
Thank you. First of all, love this panel. I could watch these two go back and forth for hours. It was mentioned that in order for us to start using nuclear energy even more efficiently, we see some technology finalized around 2028. What about solar storage, wind storage? Because we all know that storing that energy is a huge challenge. Because you know so much about things happening in the background, what do you think is the realistic timeline for that? To have a bulletproof technology for storage?
Okay, so I think there's 2 points to this question. One is that storage already works, it's just too expensive, right? Like, technically speaking, it works. It's the same when we're using the 2028 for nuclear. I mean, I don't doubt that nuclear doesn't work as a technology. Like, yeah, obviously it works. I mean, we have nuclear plants after all, right? 90% of it uses it. It's the cost. It's the thing that 1 reactor costs $1 billion. So if we're saying that we can put the storage like to wind and solar, we can do it today. It just won't be an economically good decision. You're better off not storing it than selling it to the grid. But by 2028, I mean, the way battery capex has decreased on an exponential level, I might even say that by 2025 you will have commercially ready large-scale storage that actually works on a way that is profitable.
Maybe we take a question, because I saw one more in the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to comment, but okay.
So maybe just to switch the story a little bit, what's the prediction from all of you? How far away is fusion energy? And is that something to wait for?
Yeah, no, go first.
I can comment that. I've been following also fusion technologies, and I watched one of the lead professor of the ITER project in France. Basically, it's always 50 years away, you know, and it has been so last 50 years. Basically, to have the fusion plant, now they are having the first demonstration plant. If this will be successful, they need to have the first demo plant, maybe 30 years. And then if this is successful, then they can make an actual commercial scale fusion reactor. This is end of the century, realistic. If there is not a breakthrough in the fusion technology, maybe a laser fusion that I kind of believe it will be actually something better than the tokamak, which is the conventional, what is mostly developed in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love cold fusion. I love fusion. Like, I think it has so much potential. And I read this news earlier this year. It was January, where it worked in a lab, but it worked in such a limited segment that if it wasn't fusion, they wouldn't have said it worked. But because it was 50 years away, going for 50 years, then it was positive news. But I was very hyped because I'm a sci-fi guy. So, yeah.
Quick one in the back, because otherwise they're going to give me the hook.
Hi, differences aside, do you see a scope for cooperation between both energy types and in the long term and in the short term, considering maybe it's a bad example, but if you take present day Germany, where you have a lot of requirement for gas, but now they're kind of suffering, what would be a scope from a short term perspective and from a long term where both nuclear and renewable could work together?
I mean, obviously, in the long term, it can work together. No one's saying that nuclear can't work with renewables. What I'm worried about is that that's going to stop mid-term and near-term developments, because you're doing something else that's going to come live 20 years down the line with a 10-year delay. But yes, in the long term, if you will play a game of like SimCity and you will fast forward, yes, 100% they can work together. And work in a way where they create this renewable energy system. Yes, 100%.
Neil,
Yes,
go on.
please.
Okay, I would agree. So in the long term, this is how I would see it. It's a part of lasagna. Just the question is which portions are taking.
And yeah, they already work very well together. If we look at Sweden, they have 50% nuclear, 50% hydro. Super good mix together. In Finland, there's about 30% nuclear, then they have a little bit hydro, a little bit wind, work very well together. So, but in the future, of course, when more intermittent renewables come, we need the storage. So the storage is the key. Also nuclear needs, because during the nighttime you have less demand. So we need a great capacity of storage, and storage price needs to go down. But currently it's still very expensive, and that's why we will not see huge investments in storage.
One word answer, yes, no. Estonia is carbon neutral in 2050.
Yes, with nuclear.
I have to say yes.
Yes.
There you go. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.